Don't. Yes. All right. All right. Okay. Well, welcome to the 3 simple steps to reclaim your confidence, purpose, and joy. I'm so excited to be here today. Honestly, feels silly to say this, but I think this is the most excited I've been about a class that I have taught in a very long time. So I will definitely have some moments where I go off script. I can already feel it. But it's going to be good. So, oh, let me get some people in. All right. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, here we go. Okay, so as I said, today's class is bold. It's bold and it's unapologetic, and it's probably not like any masterclass that you've experienced before. But I also mean that in the best way. There will be plenty of takeaways, there will be plenty of notes that you can write down, there will be plenty of action steps to take at the end of this. But it's also going to challenge your beliefs. And so, with that, I just ask that you come today with an open mind because resistance may come up. And that is incredibly natural when we're learning new information, when we're being asked to kind of look at things through a different lens. And so I just ask you remain as open as possible, take what serves you and leave what doesn't. There we go. Okay, so over the next hour, I'm going to show you how to overcome self-doubt and really transform your limiting beliefs. So by the end of our time together, you're going to have the tools to silence self-doubt, really reconnect with your intuition, and start creating a life filled with purpose and joy. I'm also going to be sharing a special invitation with you to create your own unique blueprint for reclaiming your power and banishing self-doubt at the end. So some of you are new here. So if we haven't met before, hi, I'm Emma Mulvaney, and I'm your empowerment mentor for today. For the last 6 years, I've helped women just like you to restore their confidence, release their limiting beliefs, and banish their self-doubt to become powerfully confident women. And it has become way more than just a job, a profession. It's a passion, vocation, life calling. It is something that I will do even on my sickest and worst days because it just brings me so much joy. But since so many of you are new to my world, I wanted to share a brief story with you about how I came to this work, because of course it's a deeply personal mission for me as well. And this story is one that I call my cracking open moment. I always have to take a deep breath before this one. So about 6 years ago, I sat across from my husband at the dining room table, and I remember holding a cup of tea with such vigor that I thought maybe the cup could save my life. Maybe it would give me the life force I was missing. At this point, we had 2 girls, about 9 months old and 2 years old, and I had been counseling women in holistic nutrition for almost a year. And I was feeling tugged apart, just full of resentment and desire and sleep deprivation for sure, and some anger, some mom rage, and a deep knowing that something was just off, very off. And I finally sobbed to my husband, there has to be a way to do motherhood that doesn't ask me to sacrifice every part of myself. There has to be a way to do life that honors more of what I want and what I need, even in these early kind of difficult years. The first 5 years as a parent are incredibly challenging. We all know that. But I had this deep knowing that it didn't have to mean that I had to disappear in order to face these challenges. And so fast forward 1 year, I continued to search for kind of the way, as I called it. And I found myself sitting on the couch during nap time with Glennon Doyle's Untamed open on my lap. And this was Not even a book that I anticipated reading, honestly. There was a lot of buzz about it. I thought, oh, that sounds, nice or whatever, but I wasn't feeling any particular tug to read it. And then I saw a brief interview with her and Gabby Bernstein, and something just told me, read this book. This sounds like a book for you right now. And in some ways, I was cursing myself a couple weeks later when I finished it. But I was sitting on the couch and getting through this book, and I just finished the prologue, and it's an essay entitled Cheetah. And if you haven't read it, it's an essay that illustrates a cheetah really feeling caged in at the zoo, and how Glennon could see the tension building in this cheetah as she came to kind of a reckoning of sorts with this feeling of being caged. And I can still remember, still feel actually the rush of fear and anxiety that settled in my stomach, like I had just hit the high point of the roller coaster and was about to go down. And pardon my language, but I remember sitting there just thinking, shit, like it just felt like the bottom of my life had dropped out. But it was also amazing because something in me woke up that day. An ember that felt like it was dying was reignited. And her words really struck something so deep within that I knew that this would divide my life into before and after, which it did. And it terrified me. But after that, I started to see all these little boxes, my own cages that I was inhabiting that didn't fit anymore. And continuing to live in these boxes really started to feel like small but significant ways in which I was abandoning myself. And that's what broke my heart. Of all the people in the world, I wanted to be there for me. I wanted to trust myself. I wanted to be the space where I felt safe, protected. I wanted to know that I had my own back. I wanted to feel like I could stand up for myself, speak for myself, know myself deeply enough to advocate for my needs and desires, and ultimately to lead myself to a life that lights me up. Because I was getting to a point of feeling very done with just surviving. And so this doesn't mean that others couldn't support me too, but there is a level of freedom and liberation really that comes with knowing that you'll always be there for yourself. There's a confidence, a power, a really reclaiming of our life force and joy that comes from coming home to ourselves, to overcoming that self-doubt and the limiting beliefs that hold us back. And so coming home to ourselves is how we reclaim our confidence, our purpose, and our power, which is really our natural state and our ultimate birthright. Just going to pause for a drink. Thank you. Okay, so let's do a little dreaming. Okay, this is what I was doing for years, was doing a little dreaming, just imagining. Can you imagine making big decisions and not second guessing yourself? Walking into a crowded room of women and feeling just secure and confident in who you are. Can you imagine having a dream and knowing you have what it takes to make it come true? Or waking up every day knowing your needs are important and will be met. There isn't that little voice anymore saying, oh, but someone else has to come first. Something else has to happen first. Maybe you're not going to get what you need today. We're dreaming about a life where that voice isn't there. That voice isn't getting the megaphone. If you're not there yet, don't worry though, because it's a lot closer than you think. By the end of today's class, you will have ignited within you the power to transform your limiting beliefs so that you can feel more confident in your decisions. So you can reframe your experience of imposter syndrome to actually work for you so that you can feel secure and assured in your relationships and interactions with others. And most importantly, so that you believe that you are worthy and capable of creating the life that you desire, whatever that looks like for you. So you don't have to continue to scramble to figure out your next steps, kind of taking in all that noise around you. You can gain clarity on your goals and dreams. And you don't have to feel anxious when it's time to speak up for yourself. You can communicate confidently and set boundaries with love. You don't have to rely solely on your own strength and willpower to create the life that you desire. You can have access to unlimited power and really use your intuitive gifts to work for you. You also don't have to spend your time in low vibe social situations that don't serve your highest good. And this is a big one. I want to repeat it for the women in the back. You don't have to spend your time in low vibe social situations that don't serve your highest good. You can magnify your results, expand your awareness, and have more fun when we embrace sisterhood. And this is something we're going to dig deeper into today, but it's feeling like something I want to highlight just for a moment because I actually had a conversation this morning with somebody about really protecting your energy and how important your energy is for the life and the experiences that you have. And one of the greatest ways that we can do that is by being mindful of the people that we share our energy with. And so we don't have to spend our time in any situation that doesn't serve our highest good. Just in case you needed to hear that reminder today. Okay. And this is all possible with the pillars of empowerment. So the pillars of empowerment are self-trust, intuition, personal integrity, and sisterhood. And these are the 4 ways in which we become disconnected from our confidence and our inner knowing and our deepest selves. It's also how we become disempowered, literally giving our power away to create the life that we desire. But it's also how we reclaim it. By developing and strengthening these areas, we rediscover the source of our confidence, our assurance, our deep belief in ourselves. And so it really does become this roadmap and process for becoming more powerful and confident. But before we get into how we reclaim it, it's also important to understand how we got here. So women have a long history of not trusting themselves, of doubting our own knowledge, our own intuition, our own capabilities. But we actually have an even longer history before this period where we were powerful beyond measure. Women held positions of leadership and power. We had autonomy and authority over our own lives, our own bodies in very tangible ways. This was a time when we were valued, where we believed in ourselves, we were respected by others, and we held deep respect for ourselves. And this period is the time before the advent of patriarchy. So before we get too deep into patriarchy, this is not a class where we bash men, where there's any negativity for the masculine in our lives. That's not what this is about. My approach is all about the balance of having a masculine energy and a feminine energy, and to raise women up to balance the power of men, not to diminish. So it just feels important to kind of give that, I guess, caveat here before we dive into patriarchy a little bit. So patriarchy is a social system where men hold primary power and predominant roles of political leadership, social control, and the economy. Patriarchy is the structure for which our current society has been based for the last, estimates vary, but roughly 3,500 years. And so that means that everything we see around us, the systems we operate in, have been created largely by men and with the masculine perspective. So it's the lens through which things like our macro policies have been made, like the coverage for maternal health and parental leave, as well as very micro details of our daily living, like the pink tax and many of our societal norms and our traditional gender roles. Those all come from this patriarchal perspective. But it's what it's done for women on a deeper level is really disconnected us from our intuition. It's caused us to lose trust in ourselves. It's caused us to abandon our personal integrity, which we're going to dive deeper into later. And it's severed us from a really great source of power, which is sisterhood, our connection to and our safety with other women. And that's how we arrive at the pillars of empowerment. The pillars are our process for navigating this reclamation of our confidence, purpose, joy, certainly, but it's also how we come home to ourselves, feeling at home in our bodies, at home in our hearts, and in deep connection with our highest selves, because that is how we are going to start to balance and shift the tides of the patriarchal influence that we've been under. Okay, so everyone's favorite topic. So I thought I wouldn't leave anyone in suspense and we would get to it right away. Is imposter syndrome. So when these pieces are missing, that self-trust, personal integrity, intuition, and sisterhood, we come to experience what can be a debilitating condition that is plaguing modern women, and this is imposter syndrome. So while we can't exactly pinpoint the time or occasion when it became kind of like a thing, I suspect that imposter syndrome has been with us, for centuries and has really just continued to evolve in our understanding as women have progressed in various areas. So, with women so predominantly in the workplace and visible in their efforts both to lead and to be financially successful and independent, the context of this imposter syndrome has evolved, I believe, to really get ahead of some of the advancements that women are making. So here's my hot take. It might be controversial, so I do want to hear your thoughts on it as well. Imposter syndrome, it's not a reflection of your own internal dialogue or a personal shortcoming, but rather it's a societal programming influenced by patriarchy that says you don't belong in this room or this role or this thing, whatever you're trying to do. It's a condition designed to keep you small, fearful, silent, and out of the way. So again, it's not a personal shortcoming. It's not even you self-sabotaging your own efforts. It's an external force working to control your power because you do belong in the room, the role, the thing. You are powerful enough, knowledgeable enough, competent enough to do it, whatever it is that you want to be doing. And if you believe that, then your power is truly limitless. And limitless power scares other people. So that's why it can feel so scary and so risky to really be taking these big steps. But it's also why we have this messaging that reinforces imposter syndrome so that we don't take those big steps. It's there to keep us playing small. And if we keep giving our power to this thing called imposter syndrome and continue to think that it's something that we have to work on inside ourselves, we're going to keep playing small and spinning our wheels, solving a problem that really isn't even ours. So what do we do about it? Just dismiss it as a construct that doesn't serve us? Yes, we could. But if we just dismiss something that has very real grounding in our lives, it's going to keep popping up in very sneaky ways because that's just kind of how conditioning works. And it feels important to add here that the words conditioning and programming, I use them a lot, but they're used here not in a kind of cultish or conspiracy driven way, but rather as a means to describe the values, the messages, and the norms that we take in from society. So every culture has a set of rules and norms that it instills in order to create order and uphold its values. And so in order to do this, there's overt and covert messaging that we receive in order to keep us kind of in line, if you will. But back to my question about what do we do about this rampant imposter syndrome? The real antidote here is strengthening our self-trust, believing so firmly in our own value and worth that no external force, no matter how powerful, can take it away from you. So reclaiming self-trust. This is step one in reclaiming our confidence, purpose, and joy. This is a really meaty pillar because this is the source of so much disconnect and discomfort for women. It's the root of our self-doubt, the root of our insecurity and our limiting beliefs. It's also the primary source of our confidence. And trusting ourselves is powerful medicine for our entire well-being. To know what is best for us and to trust ourselves first really is the foundation for a powerful life. But unfortunately, through patriarchal influences and patterning that's kind of either passed down familially or through societal constructs, we are conditioned out of trusting ourselves. We're told to look outside ourselves for the answers and taught that we can't trust our own knowing, our own information, our own interpretation. But most impactful is we come to believe that we can't trust our own feelings. Maybe you've heard, oh, you're too sensitive, or you're overthinking something, or oh, maybe you're too analytical or too critical. Maybe you're making waves or being disruptive where you're not meant to be, as they say. Instead, we diminish, we push aside, we gaslight ourselves into thinking that we don't know what we're doing. And these beliefs really get reinforced by three habits that are extremely common and also very sneaky. So these habits are unnecessarily apologizing, over explaining or sometimes justifying, and negative self talk. And what makes these so sneaky is that not only do we do them with sometimes without awareness, but as we repeat these habits, we are the ones listening. We're getting those messages feeding back to us constantly. We're sending ourselves the message that this is something we should be sorry for. So in the case of unnecessary apologizing, the times that we do it the most are when we think we are taking up space that we don't deserve. So kind of shrinking and saying, excuse me for maybe how much space you're physically actually taking up in a seat. Or maybe we apologize for a need that we have or a desire that we have. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Could I just get a refill on my water? Could I just get one moment of peace by myself? We preface a lot of our needs and a lot of our desires with, I'm sorry. And this starts to reinforce the message within ourselves that there is something to be sorry for, that if we have a need or desire, it is something that we should apologize for, that we shouldn't have, and that we should make as small as possible. And in the case of over explaining, this is often comes through in justification. So feeling like we need to justify or provide a kind of verbose explanation for our needs or desires. So this can come through, especially when we're trying to assert boundaries and when we have to say no, or maybe we have to negotiate something so that it doesn't weigh so heavily on us. We have a tendency to justify it and to say, I just had this like these million other things going on and I really just can't do it right now, but how about later? We just make things messier than it needs to be. And again, through this talk, we're conditioning ourselves to believe that there's something wrong with having needs and having desires. And what we're also doing, both with our limiting self-talk, the unnecessary apologizing, and the over-explaining, is we're spreading that message then to those around us. So the more we tell people, I'm so sorry for having a need, the more we're reinforcing that societal message. And how we interact with others is how they learn to interact with us. And so if we're always saying yes and having no boundaries or apologizing for having needs, we're teaching the people around us that that's okay too. And if we really want to start to have an impact in the world and change the way that women are valued and respected, then we need to start changing the way that we interact with the people around us. Especially if you have young children or if you have daughters, they're watching. And it's very important that we start to model a stronger behavior if we really want to see big change. Okay, so to reclaim self-trust. To strengthen your self-trust, I'd like you to think of a recent decision that you made, whether big or small, and recall how you felt when you were making the decision. Did you feel confident as you were processing it? Were you maybe a little more hesitant? Did you feel in control? Did you feel kind of intuitive and connected? Was there a voice kind of telling you what to do in this situation? And looking back on that decision, I'd like you to assess the outcome. Was it what you would call a good decision or a poor decision? Did your gut feeling align with that outcome? And if your gut feeling didn't align, was there something that you could have done differently to either honor it more or trust in yourself in the future? Oftentimes, we may have a gut feeling, but we don't act according to it. And sometimes those can be the most valuable lessons for us if we really take a moment to think back and have some awareness and some assessment of it. Of maybe how would things have been different if we had followed our gut feeling? If we had trusted ourselves enough to know that that was the right decision, would things have been different? And so I encourage you going forward when we think about reclaiming self trust to really come back to yourself first whenever you have a decision to make. Create just a little bit of stillness, a little bit of silence, and check in with your body and see if there's some wisdom there, an answer there for you. Even if it's just like a little quiet nudge, like, you know what, I really think it could be X. I think that's what we should go with. And the more you do that, the more you start to reinforce your own self trust. And so this is definitely a practice, something that you have to do over and over and over again. But for today's purposes, start here. Start looking at decisions that you've made in the past and see how you can start to trust in yourself more in the future by honoring your own intuitive nudges. Okay. And step two is to reconnect to your intuition. So this comes perfectly after self-trust because intuition is that gut feeling, that felt sense of knowing something, maybe without even being able to identify how or why you know it. So our intuition has been honed and really informed by the experience of our ancestors as well, and is really this well of wisdom and support that we can draw on in any given moment. And I also believe that it's a source of our spiritual connection. It's our inner compass when we're needing direction. And the more that we can lean into it and really create a relationship with it, the more powerful we become because we start to feel really supported and then really confident in our decisions and our purpose. So, how do we disconnect from it in the first place? I think it's really important to understand this because a side effect of our modern times is this epidemic of disembodiment, which is the separation of our body and our minds. We are born very embodied. Our bodies take in like micro information every millisecond of the day, faster than our brains can comprehend. And then this information is communicated via the body in those kind of gut feelings and intuitive nudges. It can come through in very physical symptoms as well. And our emotions, our needs, our desires, our comfort is very much tied to our physical body. And we see this often in young children when they'll kind of use their physical experiences to describe an emotional experience. So, for example, school just started for us a few weeks ago. If your child was nervous going back to school, if they were having maybe some anxiety about going back to school, they usually complain about and talk about a manifestation of like a stomach ache. And so this is something that we're intimately familiar with even as adults is like this feeling of fear or anxiety manifesting as an upset stomach or a racing heart. There's a deep connection between our bodies and minds, but for so long we've been taught to really kind of discount the body as a source of wisdom. And for women in particular in prehistory, her wisdom and intuition was a credible source of knowledge. It was revered for the information that it could provide to a group of people. Women were sought for their intuitive gifts and for their connection to nature, which was often used even medicinally. A woman's intuition was respected. And then we progressed toward this more patriarchal and industrialized society, and a woman's intuition became a thing to be feared by those in a position of power and those who sought power because they didn't understand it. but they did understand how influential and powerful it was within a society. So it started to become something that was used against women to really discredit and harm them. And so this is how we've really become disconnected as an entire society, with kind of this severing of that connection between our body and our mind. But how can we reconnect to it? So, journaling is one powerful way of turning inward and really quieting that external noise that we're getting all the time. Journaling is where we can reconnect to ourselves, we can process our information and feelings, and connect to our intuition and inner voice. It is the place that I say is where your head and your heart get to be in conversation. So, my recommendation today is to begin a journaling practice where you check in and ask yourself what you're feeling in this moment and simply being with whatever is up. And beginning to ask yourself, what am I feeling? Where do I feel it? Where within your body do you feel this? And then also asking, what is it trying to tell me? Usually, these physical sensations, these feelings that we have within our bodies, they're signals of a message that needs to come through. And when we can listen to those messages, that's the intuition, that's the guidance leading us to the next right step. And then it's important to ask, especially if you're at the beginning of a journey like this, is to ask, do I hold any beliefs about this feeling? Because sometimes we can get an intuitive hit. And maybe if it's something that doesn't necessarily make sense on paper, we immediately think we dismiss it and think that it's not something that we can really rely on. It's not something we should follow because it might not make logical sense. And so just being aware of any beliefs that you might have about this process of reconnecting to your intuition is a powerful first step as well. And then, kind of as a bonus step, if you'd really like to dig into strengthening your intuition, is that whenever you have strong intuitive feelings, writing it down and including as many details as you can about how you're feeling it, where in your body you feel it. And the more you kind of log these feelings and any circumstances or situations that kind of go around it, you really start to bring the awareness of your body's connection to your emotions, to your higher awareness. So you can really start to see that evidence in black and white of what your intuition looks like, maybe the guidance that it gave you and the outcome. And that can be powerful evidence for you. Okay, step 3 is to restore personal integrity. So, personal integrity is the act of living your unique values with the goal of creating a life that you're in love with. So, we often hear stories of people who reach the end of their lives and they have regrets. They live their life according to someone else's plan or maybe society's values, and they didn't have the experiences that they desired to have. They maybe had dreams when they were younger and they got derailed and they kind of never came back to those dreams. And when we look at how we become disconnected from our own personal integrity, it's because we've taken on values that aren't our own. So, women, especially from a young age, are taught to mold and craft our identity around our relation to others and kind of our purpose to others. So, being a good friend, daughter, sister, and then later, good worker and mother, etc. We have so little connection to who we are separate from all of that. And so we end up also living out others' ideas of what our life should be. And this is the part that really, really breaks my heart because you only get one life. You only get one chance here. Outside of kind of whatever you believe, maybe metaphysically, but you only get one chance to live the life that you currently have. And so to live it according to anyone else's desires or values just breaks my heart. And so identifying our current values gets us one step closer to reconnecting and reclaiming our truest selves, the selves that we are when all the roles and all the expectations are stripped away. And when we're living fully and truly in our own values, we can then take the steps to live life on our terms, with our dreams and our goals crystal clear and honored. So when we're young, our values are given to us usually by our parents or extended family, and generally we accept them. We carry them with us. And it's possible at this point, no matter kind of where you are in your adulthood journey, that the values passed on to you from your parents or your family or society are no longer a match for who you are and the life you're trying to create. So, to realign our personal integrity, we need to identify what our current core values are. So, in order to restore personal integrity, we need to ask, what is important to me? How do I want to feel? What do I want to experience? What am I trying to create? And this can be a really challenging thing for women to think about, to really put this emphasis on yourself. Because at this point, you might be experiencing some of that resistance that says, wait, that's really selfish. What do you mean? How do I want to feel? What do I want to experience? Shouldn't I be thinking about what my family needs and what my kids want to experience and how I want my kids to feel? And this is the moment. Remember where I said resistance was going to come up. I was going to challenge your beliefs and really challenge your thinking. This is one of those heavy hitting times where I really challenge you to think about yourself first. Because one of the core tenets of empowerment is this belief and the idea of belonging to yourself, that you belong to you first as a solid, whole individual being before you exist for other people, before those roles play out, before the expectations. And the closer we can get to reclaiming and embodying who we are, separate from all of that other stuff, the more confident we're going to feel, the more connected to our purpose we're going to feel, the more powerful we're going to feel, and also the more joyful, because we start to choose experiences and choose feelings that create the life that we are trying to create, that really resonates with us, instead of having the experiences that somebody else wants for us. And yes, that may be selfish, but I actually think selfish is a very positive word. I don't see it as kind of the negative, with the negative connotation that people talk about it nowadays. I think it's absolutely beautiful and perfect for women to be selfish and for anyone to be selfish if you're not hurting anybody else and reclaiming the life that you came here for. I think it's a beautiful thing. And here's a bonus step. So if you really want to maximize the work that you're doing to reclaim your confidence, purpose, and joy, and who you are, this next pillar is crucial, and that's the pillar of sisterhood. Living shoulder to shoulder with other women is how we lived for centuries. And it really wasn't until the advent of agriculture and then kind of more industrialized society that the competition for resources became so steep. Women were pitted against each other in order to make the most advantageous marriage, to secure their future, essentially to survive and to ensure their survival. And we see, when we look back at historical periods beginning about 3,500 years ago until now, times like the witch trials, inquisitions, the advance of colonialism, we can see women being not only oppressed and silenced and disempowered as individuals, but we can see this kind of string of orchestration of separating women from each other and kind of establishing this competition and lack of safety in groups of women. Because women on their own are incredibly powerful, but when you get a group of women together, they're forced to be reckoned with. And that's not something that people in position of power want to have to deal with. And so this is still very present today. And we can see it in the workplace when women have to compete for positions. We see it on the playground when mothers judge other mothers or compete for status. And in many other situations where women cut others down. And it's not, I believe, due to any true malice. I don't think anyone is really that. I don't know if that mean girl stereotype is really something that we're like born with. But I believe it's really more, it's an inherited and conditioned belief that other women aren't safe. We feel it. We feel that historical and ancestral experience of not being safe with other women. But when we reclaim the power of sisterhood, being in company and support of other women that raise us up, we begin to not only heal that wound, but we become immeasurably more powerful. We magnify any outcomes or results that we would have achieved on our own. And we expand our awareness, our knowledge, our networks to feel truly supported. And we get to have more fun doing it. So, like, women weren't meant to mother alone. It gets so much easier and so much more fun and enlightening when we can do that with groups of other women. Same in business, same in just life in general. It's so much more fun and so much more expansive when we can do that with other women. And if you've ever been in a room of like-minded women and just felt so comfortable and seen and heard and truly safe to just be yourself, it really does feel like this giant exhale to your system, because that's how it was always meant to be. Women supporting women, women living in harmony together. And reclaiming that is one of the most powerful things that we can do. So let's take a deep breath. I know I could use it, and I know we've gone through a lot today. So let's just take a moment to feel all that has come up for you in the last 45 minutes. Identify any areas of your body that maybe need to be physically tended to. If you need to shift your seat, if you need to take a deeper breath, sigh out any tension. Feel if there's any resistance that came up. And I'd like you to place a hand on your heart and just offer a few words of compassion and celebration for yourself. For showing up today, for being willing to learn something new, to being willing to do something different for yourself. To take this time, because showing up today was already one big step. Let's celebrate that for a minute. Oh, so do you see how powerful it can be to bring awareness to our collective disempowerment, and what magic can be reclaimed when we return to our own inner gifts of intuition, self-trust, personal integrity, and sisterhood? Do you see how powerful that is? Well, it's just the tip of the iceberg of what's available to you as far as awareness, aligned action, and support toward a life you're in love with. If you've been feeling like life is a constant uphill battle where your voice isn't heard or your needs are always on the back burner, then I invite you to learn more about Homecoming. Homecoming would be the place for you. It is more than just a coaching program. It is a sanctuary, truly, for women ready to break free from the constraints that have kept you feeling small, overwhelmed, and unfulfilled. That's a fun side there. So imagine waking up excited for the day ahead, feeling confident and clear in your purpose. The things that we've talked about today are fully embodied and they just become the way that you're living. You get to fall asleep at night with a sense of fulfillment, knowing that you've spoken your truth and really honored your needs. So Homecoming, this group container that I have created, Is an experience for women looking obviously to reignite and reclaim their confidence, purpose, and joy. But it is primarily and most importantly for women ready to overcome self-doubt and limiting beliefs. And we will do that over 6 live video calls, kind of like a training call, like we've had kind of a bit like this masterclass today. And then also 6 live hot seat coaching sessions. So that is where you can get one-on-one coaching in a group setting. We'll have those once a week. And then you also get a comprehensive workbook. Anyone that's worked with me before, I see you, and bring in more workbooks. I know everybody loves them. So, and they're very valuable. So we'll be bringing those back. We also have a private Facebook group where we will get to connect and support and share with each other. It's also kind of your hub for all the things that we'll be doing. You'll also get continuous support from me as I hop in between sessions with additional lessons. I'm there to answer questions and just really provide any ongoing support. And then because I can't help myself, I think gifts must be part of my love language. There's always surprise gifts and extras in anything that I do. And so one of the things that some of the things that we'll be doing as we have those calls and really all this supportive coaching of each other is we're going to be creating routines that are based on your unique energy and rhythms so that you can decrease mental load and stress. Those are some things that are always in the way of our confidence, our self-trust. We're also going to establish boundaries so you can feel fulfilled in your needs and desires, feel confident speaking up for yourself. And we're also going to expand your personal growth toolkit so that you can experience greater fulfillment and joy. I love strategies and tools. I love kind of having little hacks and things that we can pull out in different situations so that we feel supported and equipped to meet the situations that we're put into. We will also be, of course, incorporating the energy of the feminine so that we can feel less stress, more flow, and more freedom in your day-to-day. And then we're also going to overcome those limiting beliefs and past experiences that are holding you back so that you can finally feel like the powerful woman that you are. And this time only, I'm offering an introductory price for founding members that will be going up in the spring of 2025. And so that introductory price is $369, and enrollment is open until September 19th at midnight. And so this is a very special time to get in on the ground floor of this coaching program because there will be different iterations. And you'll get to experience kind of all the magic that comes along with all of those different times that we run it. And this time I'm super, super excited that I've been able to get 5 amazing women who are doing phenomenal work in the areas of empowerment, but they kind of take these pillars of empowerment and really apply them to their own specific niche. So this time we have nutritionist who's going to be teaching a bonus masterclass on intuitive eating and living. We also have a sacred feminine sound healer who will be doing a masterclass on the feminine archetypes and kind of the spirituality of empowerment. We have a creating a true to you business blueprint. So how to feel more empowered in your business. That's a really fun masterclass I'm excited about. We also have a feminine frequency energy activation. So it's kind of like a women's circle meets spiritual sacred space. Sounds really juicy, and I'm really excited for it because I love the spaces that Colleen creates, and she is the one who's going to be running that for us. So 5 amazing exclusive resources and masterclasses for you, which if you total it up, it's about 6 hours. So it's, you're getting 6 live calls and then the 6 live hot seat coaching and then 6 hours of additional masterclasses. So incredible value this time around. And I'm just so excited for all of it because these are women that I know personally, I've worked with. They're in their highest integrity and they just bring the most incredible passion to what they do. So I'm really excited for you guys to get to experience that as well. Okay, so when it's all said and done, I can promise you that taking the steps to live a life that you're in love with, one that is filled with confidence, purpose, joy, peace, and deep knowing that you are on your unique path and no one else's, is always worth it. Okay. Any questions? I know it's a lot, so I'm going to stop sharing so I can hop back in. There. All right. I think this chat. Okay. Anything that surprised you today? Any new information? Anything that's really challenging you? Because we could even work through that right now. Oh, thanks for joining, Sonia. Have a great afternoon. Bye. All right. Well, if there are no questions, I'll just say thank you so much for joining me today to take the first steps in reclaiming your confidence, purpose, and joy. As a thank you for showing up live, I'll be sending you the She Leads, She Reads, the Essentials of Empowerment Reading Guide, which offers some of my favorite resources to really jumpstart your empowerment journey. Also provides some historical context if you're kind of a nerd like me, and a few journal prompts and reflective exercises to support your next steps. Cool. Oh yeah, sure it is. I'm sorry, Mr. Question. Okay, live hot seats. So I love these. These are fun. So since you were in the in-person group coaching, it's kind of similar. So these are going to take place on Facebook. But it's just, it could be, I think we're going to do a 1 hour session, but it could take, a little less or a little longer. People can hop in there and get individualized kind of one-on-one coaching in that like group setting. So if you have something, so our live group training calls will take place on Tuesdays. And then these hot seat coaching calls will take place on Thursday mornings. And so that is a great place for you to come and bring your questions. If you're having any challenges with actually implementing some of the things from Tuesday's call, it's just a place for you to get kind of deeper, more personalized support. Does that make sense? Answer your question? Okay. Also, I don't know where I feel some sensations in my body, frustrations, anxiety, etc. Still working on it. I know we're still working on this with you, huh? There will be more embodiment practices that are going to be coming through in this program too. So helping you to deepen into that awareness and connection with your body. There will be plenty of opportunities to kind of get more of that. I'm also going to I'll send you individually a practice that I think would help you, a guided practice so that you kind of have someone's voice going through your head to help you start to identify where you're feeling those sensations, if that's helpful. Yeah, I'm so happy you're here. All right, well, if we have no other questions for today, then we will wrap up. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will be in touch soon. Bye.